Welcome back, everyone. Let's get the flame of hope and creativity flowing. Here we go. And there we have it. May all beings benefit. Right, so for today, we're going to get into the skull. And this is going to be a very interesting and a deep session, because beyond painting the skull, I've got a special exercise for you guys to complete at the end of this session. And I will also record creating my own in this exercise as an example for you guys to look at. Right, so colors that we will need for today, just to get them to the side. We're going to need Payne's Grey. We're going to use Sap Green, Buff Titanium or Beige. Now if you don't have Buff Titanium, you can always use Titanium White, and you can add a little bit of Naples Yellow. And Naples Yellow is also on the list. And then I've got my Arctic Blue. We've got Permanent Violet or Dark Sizzling Violet, they're all the same. And then we've got Burnt Umber. So those are the colors that we're going to need for today's session. Right, okay. So now let's do a little bit of drawing and plotting here on our painting. So what I would want you to do is take your reference material and fold it in 4 equal squares. Now if you've done my classes before, you know this is just a simple grid that I use, because now we've divided the picture basically into 4 quadrants. And you can basically do the same with your canvas. Let me just get my ruler out here. So this is a basic A4. So let's do some measurements quickly. Right, so this is 21, so it's 10 and a half. You just sort of want to get the middle point, and you don't have to draw it in. You can, I mean, you can always erase it, but I just want to sort of find the middle. So I'm just going to give myself some clues as to where that line is situated. So I'm very softly going to draw it in for myself, just so that I can find it. And the crow is going to be painted over it anyway. So let's draw. Take our board like this, and this is basically 29 centimeters, so it's 14 and a half, and that gives us basically the middle. Right, so now that we've got 4 equal squares, you can also go ahead and number. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so if I talk about these regions, we're going to be using it to plot the bird as well later. But for now, I want you just to focus on the skull. Don't worry about the claws or anything of the crow at this present moment. That is the main focus that's going to go on top of everything else. All right. So when we look at our reference material, we can basically measure and just see, because the reference material is the same size as my canvas, and I suggest if you can print your reference material the size of your canvas if you can. It just makes it a lot easier to plot things. Okay. So this is for me about 3 fingers from the middle line. So yes, about 3 fingers from the middle line. I just want to get sort of this point here. And the skull, I want you to think about shapes, not about, you know, ooh, I'm drawing a skull, because then we tend to go into what we think a skull should look like rather than what we actually see. So basically you've got a nice little oval shape here. So let's go ahead and just create a little bit of an oval shape here for ourselves, just to place it. And I'm using my white blackboard chalk. I said it correctly. Okay. So when we've got a shape, and this is temporary, so it's easy to just make some adjustments if need be. Okay, so we've got, I think I'm going to look at the basic eye socket cavity for myself, and it almost looks like rounded squares in a way. We're going to perfect this. And then the nose bridge is sitting basically here, and it forms this almost like a triangle with a ghostly line in the middle. And we've got this cheekbone sitting here coming in. Now I must just be mindful because I've got washi tape down here, and I think I've gone too far down with my drawing. So I'm going to start again. I'm just going to use a little bit of tissue here. And I'm just going to wet it with some water. I think my nose is too low. So let's put the nose in last because it's in the interior. Let's first get the teeth here. So we've got our teeth sitting here. And we've got my eyes too big as well. See, anything can be adjusted. Sometimes I'm glad that these things happen on a class, because I like to show you that you can adapt and change anything at any time. You don't have to be a perfectionist. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. So that comes up. This comes down and back into the skull, nice and rounded. Okay, that line is not necessary. Then with this little eye bank here, the nose bridge is sitting here. And it's almost like an upside down heart. That's the left eye, and that is all in zone number 3. And here we've got the line crossing over, so we can see it's a little bit higher down, just over the middle line and up. There we go. This can be slightly more rounded. Here we go. And then we've got this ghostly middle line over there. And this line of the nose basically continues coming down here. And this is basically the zone for the teeth down here. I'm just going to keep reminding myself here that I don't have space down here. There is washi tape down there. Yes, so this is basically the teeth, the zone. Let's use a brush. Too much detail there. So if it's wet with water, just clad it with some tissue before you bring your chalk in again. And again, we are roughly representing what we are seeing here. That's the most important part. I think my skull can go a little bit higher there. That feels better to me. So keep adjusting your shape with your chalk until you're happy with what you've created. That feels a little bit better. All right. And remember, it's just the top part of the skull. It's not the jaw as well. So it's just the top teeth. Because it can feel like this skull is very small, but it's just the skull shell. It's not the jaw. I think this can move a little bit back. That feels a little bit better. This comes down a little bit like that. Yes. So it's almost like a television, around a television square. It's a little bit square. Right. This nose is too high. So I'm going to take it out again. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Fantastic. Okay, so once you've plotted in your skull, we can begin the process of putting it in our painting. Right, just going to put all these tools aside. It's nice and toasty. So let me put the aircon on. Sorry, crow. We've got a crow skull here. That is just so cute. Okie dokie. Right. So let's dispense some paint. I'm going to start here with my buff titanium. And we're basically going to paint the entire skull except for the eyes with that for now. And we might need a little bit of Naples yellow. And I'm going to put my burnt umber. And my dark zinc purple. And there we go. Cooperate, please. Thank you. You also talk to your art supplies and your canvas and your brushes. That partners. Right, and this is the paint grey. And then I've got the sap green. And the Arctic blue. Right. and feel free to use any colors that you want to. I'm going to use this 1/4 inch flat brush, and I'm just going to fill in my skull, and I'm going to use my buff titanium just to give myself the shape and the beginnings of this skull. So also pay attention to sort of the direction of the bones to help create the structure. I think that sort of eye bank there is really helpful to communicate the shape of the skull, yeah? Almost feels like the Phantom of the Opera. There we go. This area is a bit darker, but we will glaze it as we go. I'm just going to leave that space there. And then you basically put in the teeth. And I like to sort of leave some spaces between these shapes. This is going to be easier when we wipe the chalk, and then these little gaps in between the teeth will appear. Just jumping around with my brush, playing on the corner. There we go. Right. I'm going to rinse, and then I'm going to just use my Payne's Grey to just deepen the eye sockets. Hello, my sweetie boy. It was my familiar's birthday yesterday. Nice. Let's do the same with this eye socket. the angle is coming down slightly into this interesting, almost square shape. There we go. And I'm going to use my Payne's grey and a little bit of my burnt sienna to just carve in this section. Just put in that crack so long. And then I'm going to wipe off most of the paint and I'm just going to blend it out. Right. Get back into the Payne's grey and a little bit of my burnt umber, just to warm it up a little bit. And we're going to create that cavity. Here we go. Slightly rounded here. And there we have it. Amazing. Okay, so we have some shadow down here, so it's definitely under the skull. And if you're going to blend it out, just do a little bit of a horizontal brush mark to just ground the skull in the image. Right, so let me talk to you a little bit about the exercise that I'm going to give you while I'm just giving that a little bit of time to dry. So I'm going to ask you to design your own tombstone. I know that sounds horrific. I mean, who would spend any time thinking about their own tombstone, right? Usually it's something that we leave for our family to deal with after we pass from this world. But there's a reason why I want you to consider doing this exercise from a logotherapeutic point of view. Now, logotherapy is something that I studied in my diploma in modern applied psychology, and this is a psychology of Dr. Viktor Frankl, that was a Holocaust survivor. He was also, before the Second World War started, he was already a psychiatrist and a neurologist in Vienna, and he already was creating this field of psychology, which is really profound because it focuses on the meaning that we derive from life, and it encourages us in quite a stoic way to find purpose in everything that we engage in, and finding purpose in your life, even finding purpose in your suffering, finding purpose in things that go wrong, because this is the profound essence of being human. We can survive the most horrific of circumstances, and come out on the other side with a smile on our face, with joy in our heart, with humor in our pocket, and we are able to transcend whatever limitations and restrictions or suffering is imposed on us. Now, if you want to read his book, this is truly a game changer, and I will add it also to the description of this video. His book is called Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. It's a very thin little book, and you'll find it at most bookstores. You can also order it online. I will really encourage you to invest a few dollars or rands into purchasing this book, because it is really a game changer. The first part of this book tells the story, or he tells his story, or from his perspective, and how he survived the 6 years of the Second World War as a Jew in Vienna and in Europe. And as a medical doctor and a psychiatrist, he used his knowledge and skills to survive. Now, that is profound, because that's already a clue towards living with purpose and, you know, do whatever your hands find to do. And in this book, he tells his tale and how he survived this ordeal. But it was not without suffering, it was not without loss, and it was definitely not without pain. It was no joyride. It's quite a grim story. He lost his parents, he lost his wife, and I think he also lost a few toes and things during the work that they did in the snow. But besides his losses and suffering during the 6 years, he describes moments of intense happiness, of intense joy, of intense beauty. And these things, he found meaning in them. And it just sort of reiterated and supported the whole field of psychology that he was busy to create. And he had already finished his manuscript for Logotherapy when the war broke out. And he actually inserted it into his jacket lining and sewed it up so that hopefully it could be preserved until this ordeal of the war was over, so that he could then publish it. But during the early stages of the war, as they got pushed into concentration camps, they were stripped of everything that they owned, and literally everything was taken from him. And in that process, they discovered the manuscript and they threw it in the fire. So this is an incredible loss already, because for him it was his life's work up until that point. But in that instant, he made a promise to himself. He sort of swore to see this ordeal through, and to make sure that he comes out on the other end, to be in that stage, to be reunited with his wife. That was his hope. And that he will rewrite this manuscript, and he will begin this amazing journey of logotherapy and make it available for everyone, because he realized the profound impact that his work is going to make on humanity. And at no cost did he want to lose the opportunity in order to make this happen. So that became his North Star, his true north. And through the 6 years of war and absolute misery on the planet, that is what kept him going. He kept encouraging himself to keep going, to get up, to do what needs to be done, to stay out of trouble as far as possible, and to just keep moving forward until the time would announce itself that this war would be over and he could return to his work and make sure that it gets published before he dies. And he held on to that with all his might. And at the end of the war, he did just that. He went to America and he began the Logotherapy School of Psychology by Viennese psychology, and it's really a profound foundational psychology, right up there with Dr. Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud and those big names that really created the modern psychology that we have today foundationally. And psychologists all over the world is still studying his work today and using it in their practices to help people. But logotherapy is a very profound perspective and orientation in life. Like I said, you can find meaning in every situation, in every challenge, in every joy, in every circumstances of your life. And I think one of the biggest orientations for me in logotherapy is to realize that you create your life. This is your path, but you decide what is meaningful and what is not. And he said many times in his book that you cannot tell people what to find meaningful. You can only find it meaningful on your own. And it is always interesting to see what people choose. Why I say that is like in sessions they will maybe put out a few stones. Let's do that. Let's put a few different things down here. Let's do that. And in a session, for example, I would ask a client, okay, so I want you to pick one of these objects. And you will go ahead and pick an object and you'll say, okay, I'm going to take this one. And then he would say, okay, but why did you choose this one? And you'll look at it and you say, okay, well, I love the colors, I love the spectrum, I love the silver clasp, I can wear it around my neck, it is a beautiful quartz with this beautiful rainbow on it, so I find it is joyful, it is colorful, it is pretty, and I want to wear it close to me because it is so beautiful. So all of those descriptions that I've just given to this object is me assigning meaning to this object, and that's what we do with life. And then also, why didn't I choose left or right? Why did I choose that one? That is how our path is revealed to us on our journey. So meaning is something that you derive out of life, and I want you to really dive deep with this exercise because it is going to challenge you to think about the life that you are living now. And this is what I said in the previous session. I hope this sort of makes fire under you, especially if you tend to be a procrastinator or if you sort of don't know what your life purpose is and what is the direction that you should take. The big sort of thing that I realized in that training was that there is no preordained path, but we decide in each moment what is meaningful, and we give meaning to our life by finding purpose. And if you tend to procrastinate or find yourself in an apathic sort of state where you feel or think, what's the point of this all? It really doesn't matter. Everything gets blown up and destroyed anyway. In the end, it doesn't matter because you are here now and your life matters, and your life can have profound meaning and purpose if you would just embrace it. And usually the treasure that we seek really lies in that dark cave that we fear to enter. It is normal and human for us to fear death and to sort of feel that time is running out, and that is usually our own soul directing us to get on with it, to not wait till next week or next year or when life is perfect before we engage with the things that we find meaningful. How many times in your life do you put yourself right at the end of the list of requirements because we want to make everyone around us happy? And hopefully when everyone is happy and settled and focused and okay, then we can give ourselves the time of day to, get going with our life purpose. And you might ask me, what is my life purpose? Well, that's the quest, isn't it? So I'm going to be sharing some text information with you in the description of this video that lays out this exercise in detail. But here's the sort of gist of it. I want you to design your own tombstone. And here's the full question, or the thing that I want you to explore. And you can journal about this because there's a lot of layers in this exercise. Try not to just list dates and achievements in your description on your tombstone. Try to be more focused on what legacy you are leaving behind. And the purpose of this tombstone isn't just to make sure that you get a pretty tombstone on your grave, but it is also to make you realize that you are mortal, that time is limited, tomorrow is not promised, and you shouldn't waste your life engaging in activities that doesn't serve you, that doesn't help you to get to where you want to be in your life. Don't get so busy with other people's requirements and expectations and demands of you that you forget yourself. And this is, I think, some of the deepest shadow work that you can do, is to explore your humanness, to look at your life through this lens of finding meaning and purpose in every circumstances and challenge that you face, past, present and future. And then direct your life towards living a life that would become a beacon of legacy, some kind of truth and beautiful meaning that starts to ripple out towards others, giving them permission to also find meaning and purpose in their lives. And you want people to walk past your gravestone and want them to read the inscription on your tombstone, and they must sort of be arrested with this beautiful stoic resilience that you had while you were alive, and leave some kind of message there on your tombstone that would inspire somebody to do the same, to live a life filled with meaning and purpose. Now, I can testify, before I did this logotherapy training and before I went on this quest, I was blaming the world around me for all my misery. I was blaming my parents for failing me, for abandoning me, and for not loving me for who I was. I was blaming the school bullies for bullying me and belittling me, degrading me, and not allowing me to stand in that space where I was. And the list goes on and on. And through this training, I had to revisit these experiences and deal with it and change my perspective on them and see it from a different angle, acknowledge my own participation in these circumstances that contributed towards my own suffering, because I was not taking responsibility for my own life. I was waiting for other people to do it for me. And this is the one thing in logotherapy that you will pick up very quickly. Dr. Viktor Frankl was very acute in this, that responsibility and freedom is married. It is literally two sides of the same coin. You cannot have freedom without responsibility. And I think we see this as a general problem in the world today, especially with our younger generations, that want all of the freedom and liberties that life has to offer, but not wanting to own any responsibility in it. And I think this is the challenge in our own lives. So if your question is, what is my purpose? What is my destiny? Look at the things that you are avoiding to take responsibility for and waiting for other people to claim and say, okay, it was my fault, I'm sorry, and then you'll feel better, or then you'll start to heal. those apologies don't always come. Those recognitions and acknowledgements from people that failed us, betrayed us, hurt us, abandoned us, won't always come. In the end, you are struggling with your own soul, your own spirit, and your own being. And you have to assign the meaning that you give to it. So it's not what other people say it is, it's what you say it is. So do look at the description of this video to really tackle this exercise. I just sort of wanted to give an overhang in my discussion as we design our own tombstones and deal with our own mortality, and then we'll go forward from there. And then if you are happy to, please share this work and this exercise with me on the Creative Heart group on Facebook. It is a private group, so everyone in the group is either part of my Patreon or has done these exercises. A lot of coaches are there in our group as well, but I'm there for you, to support you and to celebrate you. And this can be a quest, a beautiful journal exercise to do. So I want you to literally design a tombstone, and in the end, when you've done the exercise, summarize it and put it together in a shorter text version that could be put on your tombstone. And I want you to do that in your art journal so that you can always page back to it and refer back to it and see what profound insight you gain from it. Right.